fasting isn't actually that difficult.
No.
For me, I think I'm allowed on a fast day 500 calories. So it's not like you can't eat. You can eat. You can have something throughout the day. I mean, we might have some bovril or something, or you can drink something like that, can't you?
Yeah,
and then you can have. I've even had meals with a small portion of rice with it. 500 calorie meals aren't that difficult.
Hello and welcome to the Sweet Liberation podcast for another episode today. We're really excited, Luke.
It's going to be a
great one. I've just loved the last few weeks. We've been touching on some really hot topics, very close to my heart. How have you felt about the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think that everything that we've been doing and the research that we've been doing for ourselves personally is the things that for us, for me, been really exciting. And picking up all the information has been great.
And in today's episode, we're going to be getting really down and dirty on what is going on for aging, a little bit of biohacking, what sugar plays on that, and what we're actually doing. We're going to actually share some of our tips and tricks as people of our age group. Now, are we going to admit our ages?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
To admit my age, I'm going to be 51 in a couple of weeks. So this is my end of my 50th year. I'm feeling good about it. I'm actually feeling better now than I have felt for about 10 years. Part of that story is sugar. Part of that story is lifestyle. It's a combination of things that I'm doing and that I think are important. And you segue into all of that by quitting sugar, getting rid of the junk, getting rid of the highly processed foods, all of those things that we know have got all the basically unpronounceable names on the back of a packet. We all become pack flickers. So getting rid of all of those processed foods and going into a whole food diet has been absolutely amazing for me. But that is kind of the start of the story in many ways for me. What about you?
Yeah, well, I like to do what some people do and say how old they are next year. So I'm going to share with everybody. I'm 60 next year, and actually feel a lot younger than that. And I noticed that sometimes actually we talk about this because we see people that are at our age, and we sort of say, well.
Hey, Sweet Liberation viewers and listeners, we're really excited about an event that we've got coming up, the 3-day sugar-free challenge. We're really excited about it because we're going to be able to give you all the tools that you need on your sugar-free journey. So with that said, love you and leave you for now, and back to the episode.
Yeah, perhaps things haven't been so kind to them over the years, and we've been luckier with the sort of gene things, but then we've actually said, well, hang on a minute, what about lifestyle? What are the things that we have been doing that we feel have been making radical changes?
And I think the thing that's been telling is today I've actually been looking through old photos, and I was looking at photos of 10 years ago to now, and then 5 years ago to now, and it's kind of seeing the aging process and seeing how in some ways I'm managing to sort of turn the clock back a little bit, or at least halt it or slow it down. That's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I personally think that we've reversed the aging process. I think that, and so one of the things that we talk about quite a lot, and I think it's very important, is that it's multifaceted, or sometimes people call it the aggregation of marginal gains.
Yes.
It's lots of little things that together mount up to a big thing. And that's what we want to talk about, right?
That is what we want to talk about. So how about you go first in terms of what you're doing in your lifestyle?
Okay, I'll give you a 30-second body history on what I've been doing, because let's share these stories. So the thing is that what has happened is when you originally told me about Zukr, and I thought, oh yeah, do you know what? I am eating too much sugar. Let's cut that out. So then, getting rid of that 5 sugars in the coffee every day, not eating all the biscuits and things. And then what happens is, you as you start feeling like you've got more energy, it becomes a perpetual motion type wheel, or like a snowball. That snowball gets bigger and bigger, and it starts rolling faster and faster. And then you think, well, what other things can you do? And you start looking at different things, and you might go for a 10-minute walk one day. We're all a bit sedentary, won't we, coming out of the lockdowns and things. So starting really small, and you get to my age, one of the things you've got to be careful of is injuries, tendon injuries and things. I'm very susceptible to that, and then learning about what can protect you, what things can you do supplementation wise as well that can help. And we all have fears around, becoming, from a dementia point of view. Everybody thinks about that, I think, because we all know people that have those sorts of issues. And, diabetes that are in my family. There's also stroke risk as well. And then people talk about cardiovascular disease. And then, you're talking about all of the other things associated with that. And then what little changes can we make to avoid, something that might happen in 10 years' time? I mean, for me, I want to keep my teeth. That's a big one for me. And so Zukr helps with playing a role on that, and some of the other things that we found with Dr. Ellie.
Yeah, I mean, it's so basically what happened to me, I as I was hitting 40, I looked at my lifestyle, and then I got pregnant, and then everything went out of the window, and I just mumming, like extreme mumming, and then had all sorts of a catalogue of health issues afterwards. It was horrific. And then I was approaching 50, and I was like, oh God, I'm going to be 50. And it just feels like such a big number. I was like, oh, I got to do something. And then it's sort of, actually, I'd already been doing a lot of stuff, which was cutting the processed foods and eating a whole food diet, looking after my well-being, looking after my mental and emotional health, doing daily meditation, personal development, all of these things to keep me kind of going and growing and progressing in the right way. So those are the things, and cutting out sugar, obviously, looking at a joyful lifestyle. But there was another prompt, and the next prompt was, oh my goodness, I'm going to be 50. This is like a turning point into life, is, kind of going into a new chapter of my life, and hitting the menopause as well, that all of that. And what am I going to do to make sure that my body does not degrade? That is the thing. It isn't about like even the looks, or it isn't about, the vanity side, wrinkles and all of that kind of things. For me, it's more about feeling great and having energy to be able to be, an active parent, an active grandparent, and enjoy my life. I want to have a quality of life. So it isn't about like how long I'm going to live, but looking at things. And actually, one of the things that was radical for me was starting to look at the idea of how the body reacts in aging, and kind of taking a philosophical shift from going, oh, well, that's what happens when you get old, to going, hold on a minute, that isn't what has to happen when you get old. And this is like a mentality shift that happened. And that's happened in the last, I would say, year, where I'm like, well, I've been replacing my hormones. That's something I've chosen to do for my menopause. Feeling a lot better for it. And then running out of the medication for a bit, and feeling like I was going to die. I'd run out of the medication for 5 days, and I was trying to get a prescription. I was moving around the country and I couldn't get a prescription. I thought I was going to die. And Luke, I actually thought I was going to die because my hormone levels dropped. Yeah. And I thought, oh my God. And I was walking around thinking, this is what it feels like to be 90 years old. And I've seen an elderly woman walking and sort of this kind of doing this shuffle with her hips, and her hips can't even move. She hasn't got this kind of steady mobility on her legs. She's sort of shuffling from side to side. I was doing that for a few days when my hormone levels dropped. I thought, this is what it feels like to be 90 years old. And I was like, I don't want to feel like this. It was like a wake up call. It was like, if this is what it feels like to be 90 years old and in terrible pain, I am choosing not to do this. And then this is where I went madly researching and go, what do I need to do to make sure that doesn't happen to me? And so apart from replacing my hormones, I went through an entire, obviously we're already living a very clean lifestyle, but it was going deep into, do I need to supplement anything else? I'm supplementing my hormones. Do I need to do any other supplementation? And I've never really taken supplements unless they've been prescribed by a doctor, like vitamin D, that kind of thing. What about you?
Yeah, well, when I was cycling, I used to mix up my own sort of drinks and things. And actually, I did know about some of the non-essential amino acids. And that was because, again, with cycling, you're looking at all these marginal gains. And so some of the things like the L-alanine, L-arginine, and some of these non-essential amino acids that we don't always have enough of, but they are the component, or they feed the cells, and that is some of the things that you need in order for energy. Yes, for me, a big one is not waking up and being stiff, and actually not being able to move. And we all know about things like cod liver oil and things like that can help with it. Things like inflammation. And of course, inflammation and stiffness, if you've got a lot of stiffness. And again, dropping the sugar has helped with.
Massively.
Oh, the other thing I have cut out, and I don't miss it actually, is white potato, because I mentioned to you with Jersey Royal potatoes, really high in whatever that is within the nightshade family, that potatoes and tomatoes are part of the same family as nightshade. That makes my joints really stiff and that inflammation. So cutting the potato side of things out, it was fairly easy to do once you're on the sort of the cycle of actually finding these little gains are helping. You actually get more and more enthusiastic. And I think for me, that's the biggest shift for me over the last 6 months, is that every little change that I've made, I've noticed the difference.
That's amazing. So that's really, really amazing. So those little things, for me, I've always, apart from the hormone replacement, the hormones I'm replacing as a supplementation, supplementing my hormones by replacing them, I have never really been much into taking a huge amount of oral supplements. I have during pregnancy, I have during postnatally. That's just kind of because I'm a midwife, sort of that I understand that I need to supplement during this time, because unless you're having an absolutely perfect diet, there are things that you're probably going to be lacking in during this time. So I've done the supplementation in those times. And then I've been very lazy about doing it any other time. But recently I started to look at supplementation, and I've definitely been dipping my toe in the water and feeling really the difference. This is the first time in my life I've ever noticed, because I've taken a vitamin before. I haven't felt any different. I just thought I need to do this because it's probably good for my bones or whatever. But I can't actually say I felt any better, except some of the incredible supplementation I've been taking recently, which is, I felt tremendously better. I thought, is this a placebo effect or not? It literally isn't a placebo effect, because I stopped taking the thing and I definitely feel a lot, not as good, not as sharp. And I'm thinking, well, this is how I want to, these are the things that if I need to do these things, like improve my diet, tweak my diet, tweak my movement, look at my mindfulness, mental health, all of these things as a 360 kind of approach towards this part of my life and going forward. This is an investment I'm willing to make in myself, so that I don't end up with a lower quality of life than I'm prepared to accept. So this is like, what am I prepared to accept?
Yes.
What do I want my old age to look like? So ideally, I would like it to look like super active still, enjoying life, being able to get up and go and have plans and ideas and things I want to do, be joyful. I still want to be able to dance, for instance, which is something I love to do, be creative, and be useful and have some purpose. I want all of the things that I want in my life now. Probably I want to continue. There's nothing I wouldn't want to continue. So I'm like, well, what do I need to do to make that happen? So I'm all in.
And there's things I want to do. I want to still be cycling with my friends at 80, and I still want to be horse riding at 80. I want to be doing all those things in 20 years' time that I'm doing now. Because I've always thought to myself, at what point will I then, think, maybe not a good idea to get on a horse? But if you've got all of those, if you've still got all your faculties and your bones, and your bones, and you keep doing your weight, some of the weight bearing exercises, a little bit of gentle exercise. I mentioned walking. I love hitting that 10,000 steps target that I have, and I even try and do that 2 or 3 times a week, because that was one of the things that late Michael Mosley said. They did there's a documentary that he did, and he said, and they were going to put some people on statins, and they actually got their cholesterol down, and they actually did the walking 3 times a week.
Wow!
And the doctors, the GPs said, and Michael Mosley said, I can't believe the actual group that have been doing the walking 3 times a week
Done better.
have done better than the people on the drugs.
And that's the thing. So I'm all in at looking at any lifestyle intervention. And one of the things I've been really excited about, coming from a kind of nerdy, geeky research background, is just how fast this area of research and science is moving. And I'm like, well, I'm up for trying things which are going to supplement and include and improve my lifestyle little by little, even if it's like, if I was to find some food that would help me to feel a little bit better, I'd be up for trying that. So I'm kind of a living experiment in my life. I've chosen that. I'm okay to try things out that are maybe a little bit new. I'm okay doing that. What about you?
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is, with any of these, well, some of the supplements that we've been taking recently, like we've said, give it a go for 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Buy a little pot, give it a go. And I would say anybody that's listening to this that wants to reach out to us and say to us, what do you, tell us what you're doing.
We can make a bend.
No. If somebody said, tell us what you're doing, we can just say, well, this is what we're doing. We don't know for sure, as not even the scientists do they really?
No.
It's a bit like if you were taking some vitamin C, we know that, nobody says that isn't, that's going to do.
It's an antioxidant.
It is an antioxidant. But at the end of the day, you can't guarantee what the result will be.
No.
Nobody can. So,
the thing is, eating an optimal diet is the starting point. I think you can't supplement your way out of a terrible diet. I don't think that's possible. Although, if you're having a bad diet and you do take some multivitamins, at least you're not going to be so horrifically deficient. But I don't think anything can start unless you have like an optimal foundation through nutrition, good nutrition, whole food diet. Some people say plant-based, some people say animal-based. I'm not going to sit on one camp or the other. I'm just going to say whatever that looks like for you, as natural, as whole, as as close to nature as possible that you can afford. That would be an ideal nutritional start.
Yeah.
And then after that, moving in a way that feels natural and joyful. For me, my best movement, you like walking. I actually don't mind walking. I had a bit of a phobia of walking because I was unable to walk for so long. For so many years of unable to even walk just a few feet without being in agony. I couldn't even actually not walk. Even sitting still was agony. It was just agony all the time. So I almost became a bit phobic of walking, but I'm enjoying it a little bit more now. But dancing, dancing is my happy exercise, where it just feels like I'm not really even exercising.
How many steps did you do last weekend?
I don't know. I'm not. I enjoyed it. I enjoy dancing. So that's the one where I would say that's my happy place. And you like walking. And so
yeah, I mean, the thing about walking is that I find that it's an exercise that I can do without thinking too much. It is very much walking for me. I've been doing it quite a few years now, this walking thing. About 59 years I've been walking. And actually sort of one foot in front of the other. So because I don't have to think about it, it makes it very easy. And then I will make excuses. I will go and buy, 2 pints of milk from the supermarket. And I know that it's about 3 miles to walk to the supermarket and 3 miles to walk back. So it's actually quite good exercise. I also know that sometimes if I cycle, which I've been doing recently, if I were to go to feed the horses, I know that if I get in the car, drive there, it's 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back, and 15 minutes with the horses. Well, actually, it's only an extra 20 minutes and 10 minutes there and 10 minutes back if I cycle.
Right.
And so that's almost like a forced exercise. So I encourage people to find an excuse to exercise, to go and do something like go and get something from the supermarket, choose to walk there, or do a bit of cycling. But I always say walk because it's just easy. You don't need any equipment for it. You just get your bag, you carry a bag, you put a rucksack on, you go.
And I think for people that, having suffered with a chronic disease for so long, it's about finding something that works for you in that moment. At some point, I was very sick, I couldn't walk, but I still managed to somehow get myself to the gym at some point and lift some weights.
All right.
Because I couldn't actually walk. I couldn't just walk very far at all, but I would actually lift some weights, and that kept me a little bit fit at one point in my life. And now, as I said, even if I put some music on in the kitchen, that is, and then dance around the kitchen with my little one. That feels great for me, and I love it. So it's just making yourself feel that you can be active in a way that it can fit around your life, and it doesn't really almost feel like exercise. It feels like you're on a mission to do something else.
Doing something, and it's a bit like cooking with music on, isn't it? And you can always, tap your foot or whatever to that, and that's a great way of starting. The other thing I do, actually, there was a great book that I was listening to. Tony Robbins has brought out a book called Breathe, and when you're walking to the shop, there's some interesting and quite quirky little exercises that when you're doing that, you're actually listening to something that's beneficial whilst getting benefit, and you're doing the NET, as you call it.
No extra time.
No extra time. You're doubling up. Or if you want a power walk, you might as well put on some music at that.
Yeah.
Wait a minute and march off to the supermarket.
Yes, I like it's in my NET time, my no extra time. People say to me, "Oh, how do you manage to do so many courses and so many this and so many that?" And I'm always doing some sort of training somewhere, and I'm like, "Oh, I just put it on in the car."
Yeah.
And I'm like, when I'm driving, if I'm driving 2 hours to a business meeting or something, that is like 2 hours of intensive learning, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So there were ways like that for, exercise and movement that can just feel like, well, we're going to do that thing anyway. So, walk there instead of drive there. That is one really good way.
Shall I tell you something that's funny, a really strange phenomenon that's happened to me recently? Having got some thick books that have been downloaded, what's happened is I've looked at the book and the duration of the book. I then looked at my journey and thought, oh no, my journey is a shorter time than the book is long, and actually I've slowed down to get in the book so that I can time isn't that strange?
That is an achievement.
That is a funny flip, isn't it? That's a funny flip. Driving slow to
for an ex-racing driver, it is.
I've got rid of my get there-itis.
That's brilliant. That's really good. That's really good news. Well, so I think, have I done that? I think I've done that. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
If I put on music, I might actually drive faster. But if I put on, if I'm putting something that I'm listening to intently, I will slow down.
Right down.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd only just thought about that. No,
it's a very strange thing.
So, how are you feeling with your supplementation? Tell us some of your wins. What are you kind of feeling is a
big for me? Less sleep. Now, since I was...
that sounds bad. Most people would go more sleep.
No, great for me, because I've always been plagued by needing 9 or 10 hours for my whole life since I was about 14 years old or 15. And when I was 15, I was sort of a racing cyclist, and I was overtraining. Now, overtraining in those days, we didn't know really about tapering and all the training methodology. And so I was out really, on the bike, cycling to race at weekends and overtraining, training really hard every night. Now, that then meant that I needed an awful lot of sleep. So as a teenager, sort of 15 onwards, I needed 10 hours pretty much of sleep. So I was going to bed at 9 p.m. and getting up at 7. Now, what's happened with one of the supplements I've been taking is that I've suddenly got 6 hours is fine, 7 hours is great, but 6 hours is sort of a norm for me. So what I've done is I've suddenly won an extra 4 hours of my day, where I can then get up that bit earlier. I might get up at 6 a.m. and then I've got more time to do a lot more stuff, so I'm cramming more in to the day.
And you don't feel fatigued or tired?
No.
You feel perfectly normal?
Yeah.
That's really good.
Perfectly normal.
Well, I would say that
sleep, 4 hours sleep. I don't know why. I don't know where it's come from, but I suddenly feel energized.
So you don't feel there's no kind of like, oh my God, I can't sleep. I'm just awake, like that, jittery, like you would if you had too much coffee. It's none of that.
No. Either I wake up and I'm awake and ready to get going, and it's kind of an instant thing. I don't know if you found the same thing.
Yeah, we're both. But let's divulge. We're actually trying NMN supplementation.
For November and for Mike.
Yeah. Anyway, if we're not recommending this to anyone,
I've seen people might have seen it on the internet.
They could do their own Googling. We're just trying it out to see
how. It's a B vitamin.
It's a B vitamin, and we're trying it out. And there's quite a bit of science and research about it. So we thought, let's give it a go. And for me, what I found actually, it's almost become part of my. It feels like I'm taking. it's helping with my HRT because I'm in that full menopause and, you know, with having to supplement, you know, to top up my hormones, replace my hormones. And it just feels like it's part of my routine for that because I have a routine for that. I have to do it every day. And then with this NMN supplementation, it actually feels like I am balancing my hormones. I feel better. I feel so from the point of view of how I'm feeling more awake. Like when I wake up in the morning, I can get up out of bed. Now, for someone with an autoimmune disease, anyone listening who's got an autoimmune disease, you will know what I'm talking about. It is not an easy thing to get out of bed when you have got an autoimmune disease. You do not just jump out of bed. You lie there in a catatonic state, waking yourself up slowly and then checking your body from head to toe to see which bit is going to be screaming pain. And you lie there for ages getting yourself out of bed. I can just get out of bed now, which is unbelievable. It's like unheard of for me. So that's good. I feel like I've got more consistent energy through the day, and I also feel like I get a better quality of sleep. So when I go to bed, when it's time to sleep, it is time to sleep. There's no negotiation. Go to bed, close my eyes, I'm then completely out of the count.
Yeah, better quality of sleep.
Better quality of sleep. So that's been my... And so I thought, well, you know, looking into some research and stuff and looking at sort of tweaking to see in this part of our lives, what else can we do to keep up the quality? Is there nutritional support, lifestyle support, supplementation? And so we've been looking at all of that to keep our quality of life high.
Which is why I was saying it's a multifaceted thing, isn't it? It isn't just one thing, it's a combination of a lot of things. You know, a little bit of gentle exercise, a little bit of watching what you eat. The other thing that we were talking about as well, and I'm quite a big one into this, and I was going back about 10 years, I got into the intermittent fasting. There was a eat fast, live longer documentary. Again, mentioned him earlier on. Michael Mosley had done that. And that was about what you eat and then the fasting for 2 out of 5 days. And I think that sharpens the brain.
For sure. I mean, from, you know, I've been fasting on and off, well, for the last 25 years for religious reasons. And I always found, this is like anecdotally throughout communities in the world for religious reasons, that fast, it does sharpen the brain. It sharpens your consciousness. And after a few days, you get into this routine of fasting. And then you just actually, when you stop fasting, you miss it. But one of the things that we're learning now is, see, one thing is doing it for religious reasons or spiritual reasons or whatever, or cultural reasons. The other is doing it specifically for health and really understanding how it works. So now what I've understood is that giving that body the rest it needs by not giving it food to digest means that there's an entire repair process going on in the background that couldn't happen if you are giving the body food to digest. And then when you look at the kind of behavior of our ancestors that would have been hunter-gatherers, or even people working in fields after they were hunter-gatherers, they would have spent long periods of time hungry before they'd have got their next meal. Their next meal was a big deal. It wasn't a small thing to just get, you didn't pop to the shop, did you? You had to do a whole load of work to even eat, to put some food on your plate. So it was difficult to get the food. So you were likely, your body is built to be able to fast and be in a state of fasting for long periods of time, days and days and days, maybe even weeks, who knows? So your body's built for that. It's not, and this kind of snack culture, it's the exact opposite of what the human body's designed to do, right?
And certainly there is a chemical event that goes on within the body. I don't know what it is, but they do say that once you've fasted, that will then sharpen you up, because if you think about being a hunter-gatherer, and if you were, going back a few thousand years and you were chasing that food, you'd have to be pretty sharp, right? Because otherwise you're not going to catch it. And they say the same with, the cheetahs and the lions of the savannah. If they've gone a couple of days or a week without a meal,
they're sharp.
They're fast.
Yeah, and sharp.
They're on it. Yeah.
Yes,
exactly.
It sharpens your senses. It does sharpen your senses. But even if we're looking at the non-hunter-gatherer model, which would be people in the fields have to work very, very hard before they get their next meal. So either model or modal, if you like, of that means that, you know, there would be long extended periods of fasting. That was the norm. And now we're like in this culture where it's like, as soon as your head is lifted from the pillow, you shall have a bowl of cereal with sugar on it, and then a snack at 11 o'clock, and then and lunch at 10. You never stop eating throughout the day. It's like literally you just had one meal and it's time for the next and it's the next and another snack. Then you've had I'm going through the meal process now.
Yeah.
Wake up, have a bowl of cereal with sugar, then have an 11's cup of tea with a biscuit or a few biscuits or a whole packet of biscuits. Then with sugar in the tea, then lunch at about 12:30, 1 o'clock, sandwiches, white bread.
Yeah, I recall starting at a company with a software company that had the terrible thing. They had this thing called a canteen. Ooh. And it was the caterers were amazing. So yeah, getting in for an 8:30 coffee and biscuits.
Yeah.
Then, as you say, 11 o'clock, because you'd have a meeting in the restaurant area or the cafeteria, lunch. And then lunch always involved, I think there was a set menu and they gave you pudding, and it would often be syrup, sponge and custard. And then I would have an evening meal. And in the first month I worked there, I gained 20 pounds. So
I gained 20 pounds just listening to that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I gained 20 pounds. I think I had to get those little extenders for my waist. You know, the belt. My belts. I had to have a belt with every trousers. And then I don't know if this is embarrassing to admit this. Does anybody had trousers that you actually can't do up? So you've got to get like a waist extender because you can't get the button done up. Yeah. So
there's a called maternity trousers for women.
Oh. So that's my story about working for this company. I had to ban myself.
Baby.
Yes,
you had a food baby. You had a food baby. So I haven't got that story because I worked in the NHS. They didn't have a canteen where they fed us. We had to go pay for the money for the things. So, yeah. but yeah, this ridiculous the idea of eating so much. So yeah, you have your like lunch of a carby sandwich with a biscuit. It has to have a chocolate biscuit with it, and then another biscuit tea break in the afternoon. And then dinner, and then some people have supper as well. So they have like about 7 meals in one day. And my body, I've never really been much of an eater of breakfast. And I remember people telling me, that's very bad for your health. You should eat breakfast. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And I was never into breakfast as a child, never really been into breakfast as an adult. And that any times that I have eaten breakfast, I have piled on the weight very, very quickly. I'm like, surely my body shouldn't be doing this. If this was what anyway, so I always skip breakfast. So I'm a breakfast skipper and often a lunch skipper, often just a 1 meal a day person. And now we've been geeking out on this recently. We're finding out that a lot of the top researchers and scientists in the world going, oh yeah, no, 1 meal a day is the way to go. I'm like, oh my goodness, all of this nonsense. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It says who? It says Kellogg's. Did you know it was Kellogg's?
Oh, right. It's a dear.
Oh, yes.
With all the sugar.
Yeah.
The sugar added.
Oh.
I always thought that things like cornflakes didn't have any sugar because I couldn't taste it because I was used to, making all of my cornflakes into Frosties with adding the sugar myself.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just the whole thing. So
the tiger.
The marketing companies have a lot to answer for, but worse, I don't even blame the marketers or the business owners because they're just trying to make a living. It's the corrupt governments.
And I just quickly butt in on there and just say, actually, if anybody's thinking about the fasting isn't actually that difficult because. No. For me, I think I'm allowed on a fast day 500 calories. So it's not like you can't eat. You can eat. You can have something throughout the day. I mean, we might have some bovril or something, or you can drink something like that, can't you?
Yeah,
And then you can have. I've even had meals with a small portion of rice with it. 500 calorie meals aren't that difficult.
No, and I think people are scared of the idea of feeling that hunger, but actually feeling that hunger is actually kind of. I remember my grandmother that got to the age of 90. She was in great health and she took care of herself. And something she used to always say to me, she used to say, she had this thing about not wanting to be overweight. Now, she wasn't obsessed, but she was very careful with her health. And the reason she was careful with her health is pretty much the same reason I want to be careful with my health. And she said, I don't want my children to have, I don't want to be lying in a bed and people having to care for me with me lying in bed, being able to not able to care for myself. And sure enough, she lived a really good life until the age of 90, when she just literally just dropped dead like that. She just had an immediate, it was a heart attack or something very sudden like that. She just died in seconds. And that's exactly the death that she wanted as well. She didn't want to be lying there for months and months ill. And the thing that she always said is, I always feel a little bit hungry. She says, I don't eat. She said, if I ate everything I wanted to eat, she said, I would be the size of this house. She said, I get used to the feeling of feeling a little bit hungry in my tummy. She said, that's how I feel all the time. Now, I was silly me. She lived with me for a while, and I would say to her, oh, abuelita means grandma in Spanish. Abuelita, oh, that's no good. You should eat and you shouldn't feel. She goes, no. She said, that is how that's my body. That's the normal feeling. She said, of feeling a little bit hungry all the time. Now, she was always a normal body mass index. She was never skinny and waif-like or anything like that. She was perfect. And she lived a really healthy, happy life until she was 90. So I'm like, I'm following in her footsteps. I want that life because that's perfect. So that sort of feeling of a little bit of hunger in your tummy, I sort of got used to it as well. It's not a bad thing. No. It's not something you constantly have to, oh no, I mustn't feel hungry, must always like quench that thirst. Or, thirst is different. But sometimes hunger signal is actually thirst, by the way. You've confused the two things.
And you can actually drink some water and then not feel so hungry. The funny thing is, for me, for my own personal thing, I don't know what other people have, but I don't actually get the message from my stomach to my brain to say that I'm hungry. What I end up doing is I actually eat habitually. And it isn't because I necessarily am hungry. It's just that the clock says it's time for tea.
Yeah, I don't do that.
And that's my problem, but I don't feel hungry. So the fasting actually is easy for me. Some people can't fast. I find it quite easy. I don't actually do a 24-hour fast. I do a much longer one because what I do is I stop. I'm not eating from the morning. So I don't have the breakfast or the meal through the day, apart from the evening meal that's 500 calories. Actually, I haven't eaten from the previous night and then the following night. So I'm actually doing about a 36-hour fast when I fast, and I don't really notice it. But again, what I do find is I'm thinking, what do I do now? I haven't really got anything to do around this time, and this is when I normally be eating.
Oh, so it's habitual. Yeah. So because I almost talk myself out of getting habits. I have to teach myself to get habits.
Right.
I am more intuitive with my eating. So I will listen to what my body's asking me to. So when I'm with people that go, it's lunchtime, I actually find that really quite hard because for me, my body might be going, I'm not hungry yet.
Okay.
And I will eat to be polite, but I may not be hungry. So that isn't, I'm listening to my body. When my body says I am hungry, that is when I eat. So what I need to get better at doing is when people are eating and I'm not hungry, to say, oh, I'll just have a cup of tea and sit with you, because it's nice to socialize in that time, but I shouldn't be joining people to eat because my body doesn't need the food at that time. It needs the food when it is hungry a couple of hours later.
Right.
So I shouldn't be eating just in case I get hungry later.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I'm kind of, as I'm getting older, feeling like more giving myself permission to tune in.
Yeah. And I'd like to just touch on is the power of journaling. And if anybody is listening to this that's thinking, I like some of those ideas, get a small notepad or journal and jot down some of the things that you think you could do to make a start, whether it's going for a short walk, cutting back on, on some of the sugary treats that you might be eating.
Yeah.
And maybe doing a little bit of research on things like any of the supplementation. What would you say?
I think so. I think look at whether, I mean, always, I am not going to recommend for people to do things. They have to speak to their healthcare professional. We can share what we're doing.
Yeah.
But definitely have a conversation about where you're at with your lifestyle. So, make an appointment to see your healthcare professional, sit down with them, look at some and create some really tangible health goals for you, and start small. I think don't go big and overwhelming. Go, I'm just going to do all the things. So if you say that to yourself, it's overwhelming and you're going to set yourself up to fail. So start with one thing. And we think sugar is the place to start. Just start looking at reducing sugar, refined foods. Start there. Have a frank conversation with your healthcare professional. Say, look, I'd really want to improve my lifestyle. I know I'm eating too many of these things. I've kept a food diary. It's good to keep a food diary. Yeah. Keep a food diary. I've kept a food diary. This is what I've eaten over the weekend or over the last week. I'd like to improve on that. And then, they would obviously talk to you about your health conditions and then talk about how to start creating some tangible goals going forward. This is something also we can help with, although, we are not going to dish out health advice. We have got the Sweet Liberation app. Sweet Liberation app is a great starting place as well for people that want to quit sugar and want to try some treats that sugar whilst they're in that process of quitting, because we know how difficult it is to go cold turkey without, some treats. And then, we have got some great tools in there, including mindfulness tools and a few other things and journals. And so, do have a look at the Sweet Liberation app. And our newsletter, join our newsletter, because it's a real, it will give you the encouragement every week that you need, just to see how easy it is just to get started. It's a great place to start being sugar-free. And then it will take you down a road of really wanting to take care of your body. That's the best. I think that's the biggest win, is going, I've done this and I've been able to achieve this. What else can I do? And that question is the best question you could ask, because when you're in that, what else could I do now? You're literally growing as a person.
Because you can say, I've cracked that.
Yeah.
Because they've tried some Zukr and they've actually gone sugar-free, or they made some sugar-free cakes. Right, done that. What now?
What else can I do?
Yeah, and it's all of those things added together, and that will make a big. And once that snowball, you start with that snowball.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's quite easy.
Absolutely. It's so exciting as well, because you sometimes, and the journaling, back to what you were saying, is so important, because when you start journaling and documenting your journey, one of the things is it's easy to forget where you were, but actually by journaling, you'll be like, oh my goodness, look how far I've come, and weight is one measure, but I would say wellness, for me, how you feel every day in your body, and how you're feeling towards your outlook towards life. It improves when you feel better, doesn't it?
Yeah. And we've mentioned the small steps because everybody's seen the people that are out on the 2nd and 3rd and 4th of January every year running.
Yeah.
And of course, it's so hard if you've not run, and, people, beads of sweat coming off them. It's not sustainable. We know that. We know how hard that is. So actually, one of the easiest things to do, and I cycled a lot and I was trained a lot on a bike. It's so much easier to make some small dietary changes than it is to get out on a bike every day. I can promise you that, in all weathers. And in the UK, the weather, how changeable that is. It is just hard work. But making some simple dietary changes is for me, has to be the initial step.
And they always say, even this is a kind of a little bit of a cliche, but people will say abs start in the kitchen. Abs start in the kitchen. So not that we're all out there to get, 6-pack abs, but the idea that actually your fitness goal starts in the kitchen. So if we start there and you go, I have managed to do that, it is just the best thing that you could ever do. So we would say that, I don't know if there's anything other top tips you want to leave today, because I think, Luke, I don't know about you, but I feel so great at this age. Like, I'm looking forward to this chapter and going forward in my life. I never thought I would be saying that age 50 going on to 51. What about you?
I've always thought that, I've always wanted to ensure longevity, and I wasn't sure how to achieve that. I just assumed, you just mosey along and you suddenly arrive at the ripe old age of whatever it might be. But actually, as we've started the journey and I started to become more aware of everything, things like stomach, things like, having a good dental regime and all of these things to stop things like, you mentioned to me even today, bacteria getting into your blood. Well, of course, we've got bacteria getting into our blood, but if you've got things like bleeding gums, I used to have that sort of thing. If you've got a gum that's bleeding and you've got bacteria in your mouth, you're obviously getting that bacteria can get into the bloodstream. So there's lots. So from my point of view, the knowledge and the things, and that's one of the things you mentioned about the newsletter.
Yeah.
It's starting to build knowledge on certain areas, and then and once you've got that knowledge, you've got it for life.
Absolutely.
Make an investment in your own knowledge.
Absolutely, in your own knowledge and in joining a community that are on the same path as you. It's really exciting.
We're pulling in the same direction, aren't we?
Pulling in the same direction. So with that said, I think we'll leave it there for today. And it's been a great episode because we've been sharing. I said we were going to get down and dirty and share all the deets, all the things that we're doing. And if you've got any questions for us, we can't offer advice about what to take and things like that, but we're happy to share what we're kind of doing.
Our regime is, but it's a resource though, what we're doing, because everything and the supplements and things that we take, they're available on the internet. We have seen them, we've looked it up ourselves, and we've gone, let's give it a go.
Yeah, let's give it a go, and feeling better, and just kind of saying to yourself, I think coming at it from this approach, even without supplementation, it doesn't really matter whether you decide to supplement or not, but that's up to you. But going, what can I do to be in my best health right now?
Yeah.
And that's the bit. Well, like the question about the teeth, what can I do to keep my teeth for the rest of my life, other than just brushing my teeth? What else can I do to have great oral health? And then we went down that whole rabbit hole, and it was great because we got a whole dental regime going on that I had never. I'm the person that goes, there is definitely a solution for that.
Yeah.
And there is definitely somebody that's doing it the best in the world. And I'm going to find who that person is. So we've done that. And we're like, oh my goodness, this is life-changing stuff. Got like really good oral health and taking care of ourselves. I'm going to keep my teeth until I die. They're going to be the best teeth in that cemetery. And that's the thing. Just kind of thinking, what else? And now we've done that. What else can we do to feel great?
And I'd seen something last thing I want to finish on. I saw something the other day and I was thinking about it, and they said that the person that lives to 150 has already been born.
Oh.
So there we are. So the person that lives to 150 has already been born. So look at the changes as well. I always challenge people. I've done this for the last 20 or 30 years and said, if the medical changes that we've experienced have changed so much over the last 50 years, what are they going to do in the next 50 years?
It's madness.
And then you'll be 100.
Oh my goodness.
And that'll be another 50 years' time. What will the medical advances be like when you hit 100?
Oh,
You'll be cryo-frozen.
I've been geeking out about this. There might even be a way for them to give us a medication that goes in and resets our entire body clock.
Wow.
And restarts us.
There won't be 50 years, will it? It'll be sooner than that, I expect.
I mean...
Anyway, we're really passionate about this. We'd love to share more of it. If anybody's interested in hearing more about this, we can talk for hours on it.
We could talk for hours, and we're open to all questions, all suggestions. But the most important thing, what I want to finish is looking at having a great life as you get older.
Fun. And
having a fun life and not accepting, no, I'm not actually going to accept sitting in an armchair, sipping my food through a straw. That's not how I want. That is not how I want it. All power to all the people that want to live like that. I actually don't want to live like that. I want to have a joyful life, and I want to enjoy myself just like my grandmother did right till the end of her life. So if I can do that and achieve that, I will be really happy.
Not just put you in a chair near the sunny window.
No, I will be dancing near the sunny window. I will be going out and dancing in the garden.
Right.
I'm planning all these lovely things. So I want to have a great life going forward. And so, yeah, that's what this is all about. So with that said, we'll love you and leave you. Catch you on the next Sweet Liberation podcast. Remember to subscribe, like and subscribe to this channel, and make sure that you share this episode with your friends and family. Subscribe to our newsletter by going to sweetliberation.co.uk. And yeah, we will see you next time. Take care. Bye for now. Bye.